All right, this is Jedbanger's Ball. I'm your host, Jed Mayhew. Thanks for listening. Today's show, record producer Thom Monahan. You've heard his work with Devendra Banhart, Vetiver, Fruit Bats, and countless others. So we thought we'd have Thom come down and help us soundproof the podcast studio. But we'll get into that later. So thanks for listening, and here's our talk with Thom Monahan. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, I can't hear any of the noise.
No, I can hear people talking. I can hear people talking, but not in the headphones though.
No,
just outside. You said that you had one of these microphones.
I wanted to get one at one point because they're supposed to be good on guitar cabinets.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I heard that what's the one that Paul McCartney always uses? Like it's like RE20 or.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's another one. There's all sorts of like broadcast microphones are really good for rock and roll sort of stuff.
But you said that you got one of these is like this brand was one of the first things that you got.
When I was a kid, the first thing I ever bought when I was 15, I went to some dude's house in like New Jersey where I was living at the time, and I got a keyboard, like a Roland synth, and I got a little Heil mixer, the name of this company. And I got this like purple chrome mixer that I still have in the studio.
Was it like a 70s one or something?
Yeah, it's like you see. I think if you go online, I think there's like pictures of maybe it's like Santana, their keyboard player, has it as a sub mixer. It's awesome. It distorts really well. Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. I mean, I know a lot about. I mean, not a lot about it, but I've heard of like people using the preamps or whatever in a mixer. Or running through a mixer to get like a distorted sound of guitar or vocal or...
Yeah, totally.
That's just a classic.
The first fuzz tone is just a broken channel in a mixer. I can't even remember the name of the song, some country song. And it just has this massive fuzz that comes in the middle of it. It's like a kind of a normal song, but when they take the lead, it's super blown out fuzz, and it was the mixer channel was messed up.
Right, it's like poking holes in the speaker cabinet or something.
Yeah.
Something weird, like some early...
Everybody just wants to do things to mess shit up.
Discovery of like dirty guitars or whatever.
Yeah. No, that's the whole thing. It's whatever you can do to get something that's different sometimes.
I think that I was trying to remember earlier, but I think the first time I met you was when you lived on Hyperion.
Yeah, right.
Didn't you live on Hyperion, right?
I did, right when we moved to LA in like 2005.
And you guys
2007 or something.
And you had your studio there?
Yeah, upstairs in the attic.
I came over and you were recording Devendra Banhart's record, I think. Or was it?
It was probably just after that because I was at that. It was weird because like everybody.
Or was it Vashti Bunyan?
No, that would have been later. But it was we did this weird session with Devendra and Juana Molina. Were you there during that?
That might have been it. Yeah,
that was a real freak show. That was awesome.
Maybe that's why I was invited over.
Probably. It was crazy. I mean, we were doing this session and like Juana Molina and like someone had asked, like, had arranged this whole thing with like Juana Molina and Devendra and Andy from Vetiver, and like I was the only person that lived in LA at that point, I think, and everyone would come and stay at my house, and so it was kind of this weird center point for things, and I just remember that we set up all this stuff, and Juana was, do you know her? Juana
No, I
Molina?
don't.
Oh, she's
I know the name.
Yeah,
and-
she's on Domino. She's amazing.
right.
And she was like rehearsing for a tour, and we were recording stuff. And I just remember that the people were playing. There was like David Coulter, who plays with like Tom Waits and stuff. All these people were there. It was super nuts. Everything's set up. And Devendra just appeared out of nowhere. He was late by like hours and hours and hours, and he showed up with like a French film crew, like or television crew or something. Suddenly there were all these French guys with TV cameras, like he just crawling around on the floor. And I've always wanted to see that footage because it was really amazing. And yeah, that was just, I mean, and
Was he wearing a dress when he showed up? Was he?
no,
was he full
but
on?
he was, but I didn't understand because it was a blur. And I think Devendra was singing in Spanish at one point, and I wasn't paying attention, and Juana kept laughing, and I was like, why are you laughing? She's like, because Devendra's just like, this is a very serious song for me, and we're singing a duet, and Devendra keeps singing, my underwear is on fire.
Right. It was. I do remember
Yeah.
coming over there and it being a pretty like. I had just moved to L.A. and it was.
Did you come from Seattle? Is that where you
yeah,
came from?
I came from Seattle, and I remember going over there, and I was with Zach Cowie, and he was headed there, and we went together or something. And I remember just walking in and thinking like, man, this is a really like L.A. experience that I'm having.
So not L.A.
There wasn't a film crew, but it was just like a lot of
Yeah.
like there was a lot of like weed smoke in the air.
That would
There
make
was a
sense.
lot of acoustic guitars. There's a lot of long hair. There's a lot of people just kind of like sitting around, just like that weren't there to make a record, but just were there.
That was kind of what it was like
Yeah.
around that time. But it was awesome. I look back on all that very fondly.
Yeah, totally. But you started out making. Were you always in recording, or you were playing music before?
Yeah. Well, that was the whole thing. Was I was just like a band person who had recordings gear, and that was how it all kind of happened. Was that I sort of was. It kind of being in a band almost grew out of having recording gear. When I was a kid, it's a typical story. I moved away from home, and then I got this crazy job for someone at like 19 to get where I was making a lot. I was making a good amount of money for not when you don't have any bills and stuff. And I was working at a compact disc distributor as a salesperson, just talking to record stores all day long. But it was good money back then. And I bought like a 4-track and effects processors and all sorts of stuff. And this was like, and we would just make a lot of noise, just could barely play. We're just literally banging on shit all the time. And then it was kind of, from that you start to learn how to play an instrument and realize you want to write songs and stuff like that.
Where were you living at the time?
I lived in Connecticut. I lived in Sandy Hook.
That's where you grew up?
I would just bounced around on the East Coast. I came from New Jersey. I went to high school in New Jersey.
And what were some of the early bands that you were playing with, though?
I mean, it wasn't really much of anything until I was in this band called Monsterland. And in the 90s, when they would sign like anything, we got signed. We got signed.
When they would sign anything, and you could work as a CD distributor.
Yeah, well, I was working at Macy's at that point. I mean, it was kind of a good job. I could get out because I had folded all the quilts. You know what I mean? I could get out early to a show. But
if you folded fast enough.
Yeah, if I folded fast enough, I could. And there was a phone in the back because I didn't have a cell phone, but there was a phone at like this hidden back register, so I could make phone calls and like call CBs and tell them that we could, we would be there at such and such a time or whatever. It was ridiculous. And yeah, but we had like it was cool. It was good, and we had like an Enemy single of the week, and then we got signed to this division of Atlantic, and that was like the first time. And I took the money that we got, like a little bit of money from an advance. I mean, it was still not very much even for those days. And I bought a 1/2-inch 8-track and a mixer, and we would record in the basement of this house I was living in, and then I just kind of, after that band kind of ended, I moved to Northampton, Massachusetts, and wound up in this crazy house with a bunch of musicians, and wound up like just recording people in Northampton and getting a job there, like at a recording studio.
Right. Was that when you started playing with the Lilies around that? Was that around that time?
Yeah. Because I had always known Kurt Heasley, and Well, actually, the thing that was funny was Kurt was the first fan letter I ever sent to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Probably really maybe one of two I've sent in my life, and I was the first fan letter he ever got, and so we were friends, and he's a great, interesting person with a storied history, and he's always been that way ever since. He had a crazy history when I met him, and he's just like I've loved, Kurt writes amazing melodies, and he's just like his music's amazing, and I always kind of wanted to be in Lily's, and I got this crazy phone call from him like, I'm in Denver, I'm living with the Apples in stereo, and I got to make this record. They're like, do you want to play bass? And blah blah blah, and the beats go kind of like this, boom, chaka chaka doom chaka doom doom ka ba ba ba. And I was like, hey, wait a minute, I think I know someone who sounds just like that. And I had done this crazy session with Aaron Spersky, who I'd done a session with him in Boston at Fort Apache, where we were both playing on this thing, and so I called up Aaron, and Kurt had this relationship with this guy Mike Deming, who had a studio called Studio 45 in Hartford, Connecticut, and Mike is a really amazing guy, and who taught me a lot, and we just kind of got together and made this record in the summer of '95. It's like 20 years ago.
Right.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Crazy. And you told me, I remember you were mixing some stuff, or you were recording some stuff for something I was doing at some time, and and I don't remember what it was. It was a few projects ago or something like that. But you told me a crazy story about how you guys wrote or learned the songs or recorded that record, where you were running up and down the stairs or something.
Oh, God. Well, yeah, I mean, it was like we went in there and Kurt just had these ideas, and Mike did an amazing job organizing, like, chaos. It was insane. And I was upstairs, like, we kind of went through and got drums with Aaron and then did percussion. And this was like, we were doing it analog, and there was a ton of submixing, so we would have to keep submixing to make more and more tracks and more and more tracks. And so when we were submixing, basically I would get a mix on this 1/2-inch 8-track that I had. I would bring it upstairs in this factory warehouse art space it was like the Colt factory in Connecticut that was just surrounded by drug dealers, and I was on the 5th floor, and I had this crazy view, and I would be up there like trying to write and learn bass parts, and there would be songs that would just have huge empty sections that would just have Aaron like just tapping on a snare drum there was no click track. It was just Aaron like banging on something, and it would stop, and I would just be like, I don't know what's going to come, and I would just hear like Kurt would just be humming. The guide mix would just be Kurt humming, and because he knew that I was making a mix and that I was doing it this way, he would sing things like "Sucks to be you,"
right?
Because I would just like be sitting there waiting to get through like 32 bars of like Aaron hitting the side of a snare drum and Kurt babbling.
I mean, like, how long did it take to record the record?
We did it, strangely enough, we did it all in like 35 days, which was sort of amazing to write and record. This is a record called Better Can't Make Your Life Better.
Right.
Which, is some people will know. It's really tough to it's kind of tough to track down. It's sort of lost and, it was wound up on some sub-label of Sires, so it's just trying to re-release its so it's been gone forever, but you can still find it if you dig around on the internet. You can find everything.
And did you continue to play with them afterwards and tour and
yeah. We did a whole bunch of stuff after that.
And so after that, I had another question about your early kind of playing in the band days or whatever, because I also read that you played on like did you play on the Silver Jews record, the second one, or?
Well, what I did...
Because you were playing with like Pernice Brothers.
Yeah.
And who else? Scud Mountain Boys?
Well, no, what happened was when I moved to Northampton, I had this very romantic summer. You fall in love with a town. It's a beautiful place. And I wound up recording these guys who would always jam in this house down by the railroad tracks kind of thing. And that was the Scud Mountain Boys. And we did this record, and Mike helped mix it. It was great. It's called Dance the Night Away. And when I moved to Northampton, that house that I moved into, went up there to play music with a guy named Zeke Fiddler. but his roommate was David Berman from Silver Jews, and so it was just a crew of people, and so I wound up doing the Scud Mountain Boys record and knew David, and then kind of was in that Pernice zone, and then David asked me to work on Natural Bridge.
Right. And so then that record never came out, that version, or what happened with that?
Natural Bridge?
Yeah. Well, you recorded it, but there was another version that they recorded that didn't get put out, or am I making this up?
No, Natural Bridge came out on Drag City.
Right.
But the Lilies record that we were talking about before actually has two versions.
Okay.
There's the original, like, let's mix it super fucking fast version, and then, strangely enough, for a record called Better Can't Make Your Life Better, there is a re-recorded version, and that's sort of the secondary version where they went back in and replaced like samples with some, we just had like a shitty Roland sampler for trombones, and so we went back in. Mike went back in and redid like the trombones with real trombones, and some of the songs got cleaned up. And
because I read there was this original version of that Natural Bridge record that got sort of destroyed.
Well, it's possible that could have happened. I mean, who knows with Berman? You know what I mean? Like,
because apparently he had walked out at some point, and they finished like a Pavement record in the time that he.
It's totally possible.
I'm just getting this off the internet, so
who knows?
He may be updating the Wikipedia site.
It's possible. I haven't been to the Natural Bridge Wikipedia site probably ever. So I could imagine something like that happen. I do remember that David made us these like beautiful librettos that had all the lyrics for the record and drawings, for each song, and there were notes on ideas that he had. It's like one of the most beautiful things that I've ever had in front of me to work with when you're trying to unpack someone's world and their ideas and everything. But David numbered all of them, and we had to turn them all back in at the end of the record.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We couldn't keep them.
Wow.
But for the time, I had that I didn't have them. I had just my own, but it was really amazing. But yeah, he also couldn't sleep during that record, so he was a total insomniac, and so day after day would go, and we'd be like, David, did you get any sleep? And it was no, and so we were all trying to like become one hive mind and take sort of the same sort of sedatives and everything like that, and nothing. I just had horrible dreams.
So you go from Kurt Heasley
to David Berman. Yeah, I can handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always every time I've been around you or when I've worked with you on something, you've always been a very kind of even keeled sort of guy, or normal comparatively. So maybe that's
I get that.
Maybe that's what these people need, because then someone has to remember to hit record.
That's usually that. Yeah, I stopped smoking a lot of weed when I had to work more.
That's
when I became responsible.
That's your main job, is to be the guy that actually.
Well, no, that is it. Because sometimes people just need a facilitator. I mean,
sure.
That's really kind of the main thing that it feels like most of the time.
Yeah, totally. So how do you get from there to Los Angeles and start breaking away from being in bands to actually focusing more on, being? Would you call yourself an engineer or producer or? Well,
I think I have to kind of say that I'm a producer, because I don't really do like engineers in their truest form. They're really amazing because they're technically super incredible. They're incredible people who can fix things, and they're making sure everything is really working and gain staged correctly. And I mean, not all of them, but I'm just saying that engineering is a real art and it's a real skill. And I don't really get asked to do that so much. Like, people don't usually wind up in a room with me because they, just want me to make a sound. And I'm usually in there because there's some sort of collaborative process that I'm part of in terms of discussing what we're trying to do and trying to find a way to, you could say that engineers do the same thing, like, they're just trying to find a way to get the sound that people are hearing in their heads. But I think my process and the times I've been working with people, I did this because I was in a band, and like, we never had any money, and we just had gear, and there were records to be made and things to be done, and we just did them, and we did them as a group, and we talked about things we were doing. And I like when groups of people are trying to record and stuff, and so I kind of wound up being the cat herder of everyone.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So I think engineers sometimes are, that's when, I think in its truest form, like that's when someone's just asking you, can you come in and please do this? And maybe I'm just too opinionated for that or something like that. I like the unpacking of the, taking something abstract.
So as a producer, you're more collaborative with the band,
Yeah,
because there's the
totally.
idea of
I'm
like
not
the
a top-down
70s
guy.
rock producer or whatever, or
The Svengali
yeah,
behind it all.
exactly, that's kind of helping to write songs or to
Right.
arrangements.
That can be part of it. I mean, that is that's all that can be a lot of what's going on, because the songwriting process nowadays with, when everyone's working, I mean, it was that way anyways with analog or digital, the songwriting process happens like throughout the entire recording process. People are always chopping things up and rearranging them and stuff like that. So that happens.
When you're recording a band now, so do you have an engineer with you?
No, it's just me. So that's
You're filling both of those roles then.
That's the thing, is that I think I kind of do whatever is, whatever someone needs me to do, and I'm comfortable in those roles. Like sometimes, people really need they need someone who's going to tell them kind of what to do and sort of structure the experience and the whole project, and that I do from time to time. And then there are people who just need someone to, like, just make the technology invisible and make it so it's more like a hang and you're just doing stuff. And that's also a lot of what goes on,
And I guess I kind of glossed over it. I guess how did you get out to LA then? I'll come back to this recording stuff because
Sure.
I'm more interested in that as well. But
it was through my wife Shirley Halpern.
right,
Yeah,
and she got you that bass too that you have.
Yes, she did. I was touring with Pernice Brothers, and I was playing this Rickenbacker that was falling apart on me, and she, through whatever means, she sort of pulled this off, showed up at a show with a 72 Fender P bass, and gave it to me.
And you pretty much use it on like every recording, right?
It's there all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It was not just some, random bass. She put a lot of thought and energy and effort into finding it.
It's interesting because I think about that a lot too. Just like there's sort of like the one piece of gear that you have to have whenever you're making a record or something like that, like if it's a pedal or it's a guitar or it's an amp or whatever.
Or a problem, like for me, which is, it seems to be several pieces of gear.
When you start collecting them,
Yeah.
exactly.
But no, I know what you mean, because there's just, there is that thing with certain drum kits or certain guitars or certain amplifiers, and they're just musical. They just sound good with whatever, It's not like certain things work better for certain purposes, and they work in this sort of nook and cranny. And then there is the magic one that you pull out, and it just sounds great on everything, and it sounds musical on everything. And those pieces, those instruments, those things, they really do have life, and everybody's got the instrument or the amp or whatever they're doing. They have that piece of technology that works for them, that they can make speak, and it's always great to see what people bring in, because something that works for them may not work for the next person, but what we're talking about, I guess, is really the instruments that sort of work for everyone. But
right.
I just like seeing what people do. It's amazing. Everybody does something infinitely better than you will ever do, and it's kind of cool, because everyone's going to come in with something that's truly their own.
Sure. And you wanted to, the idea initially was to be able to record out of your house. Is that always what you wanted to do? Or?
I think it was definitely built out of the economic necessities of having to make records and not really having a space. And I did go around and make a lot of records in people's living rooms, and I really like that, and have always had some place to record where I lived, and it's just gotten slightly more and more involved as I went along, and things became more serious, and I kind of had to, I had to have some place to finish stuff because I couldn't just, and I don't like just sitting in a studio sometimes with the clock running. I think it's good to have that be part of the process, but I usually just want to get up and go home, go to my weird little hidey hole with all my stuff.
Sure.
I think everybody does.
Yeah. Can you talk about recording up at the Hangar in Sacramento and your relationship with those guys? Because we're actually going up to their new place.
Are you going to Stinson?
Yeah.
In right on.
A couple weeks to work with Woodhouse.
Oh man! Well, are you going to go to you're going to the Stinson place to do that, or are you going to Sac because he has his?
You know what? I don't know.
I think you're going Woodhouse. As far as
I don't know where we're recording our album at.
As far as I knew, but I don't really know.
Wherever Woodhouse says we are recording.
I think he has his own joint. It's like it is what the Hangar mutated into.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's in Sacramento.
Yes.
Right near the homeless shelter. It's awesome.
Awesome. Well, I asked him this morning if we needed to get a place to stay or if we just stayed in the studio. So maybe that's where we're staying is at that shelter.
It's possible. It's a massive block of facilities.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. No,
it's gonna the weather's going to be nice too, I'm sure.
Yeah. I've never seen. Oh man. Yeah, I've suffered. I've been in Sacramento. I've been in so many cold Sacramento winters and blisteringly hot Sac summers with the swamp cooler and that massive space that no longer exists. Yeah, the Hangar was in this. It was what it was named. It was just this giant space in a warehouse in Sacramento with a skate ramp in it and a stage. It had been a club called the Vortex or something like that at one point. It was like a Polish American hall or something.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we made a record out of there. I made a record with a band called The Intelligence there, and it's like Heckler magazine was out of there too, I think.
Oh yeah,
skateboarding magazine.
Yeah, because that was what John Bacigalupi. Yeah, it was John Bacigalupi's place, and now he has a couple of different places. A place in Stinson Beach, which is awesome, and the place in Sacramento that Woodhouse is at most of the time, and that's smaller than the Hangar was. But I mean, the Hangar was enormous. Like on breaks, I would just ride a bike around the live room. It was huge. And we did a ton of stuff there. It was basically what happened was I met John when I was touring with Pernice Brothers. We played some crappy blues bar in Sacramento, and John came out. And I met him, and then I moved to Los Angeles. And after we tracked Cripple Crow, the Devendra's record,
sure, we
needed someplace to mix. And Devendra and Noah and Andy and I, we were all working on it. And like Dev said, I just want to... we should do it someplace not in Los Angeles, and we should do it someplace near the water or whatever. And so I was just emailing with John, because he, John is the publisher of Tape Op magazine. And I said, hey, do you know any places in California that would fit this bill? And he was like, yeah, you should come up to my place. And he sent me this beautiful picture of the Sacramento River, which I then spent the next 6 years at the Hangar, and I have no idea where that photo is from. And,
it's nowhere near there. I know that. But.
Yeah, and I have John. So I wound up in this place.
I like that those guys meant the ocean or something too.
They all trusted me. I mean, that's what's
or
so insane.
A lake
that's
or something, not the Sacramento River.
He
sent you a photo of the LA River.
Exactly, and we went up there, but it was awesome, and it was a great place, and they had crazy gear, and it was super cheap, and we all crashed in the live room, and it was really awesome. It was like this total weird warehouse that just was on the edge of this little spot in town by the railroad tracks, and it was really inexpensive, and it had the most insane gear, the best recording gear. You could just do crazy stuff I don't want to record. Okay, for the next song, let's not use any gear past 1970. Everything's got to be pre-1970. No problem. They had it.
Right.
And Bryce Gonzalez, who, is here in LA now and has a company called Highland Dynamics. He's making compressors. He's doing all this awesome shit. Bryce was the tech / de facto studio manager. He ran his shop out of the front. He was building amps and stuff, and Bryce could fix anything, and he was super rad to work with. And and we just did all sorts of stuff. It was so much fun. I mean, that's the whole thing, is you could go up there and it was like super cheap. You could be there for a long time. Sacramento is this weird town that there's nothing to do.
There's nothing going on,
but there's good places to eat.
There's good places to eat.
You know, and it was really amazing. And John just was like the greatest person. Like, he would just facilitate like anything, and I loved it. You know, he's just so great, always so enthusiastic, and you know, he's a skater, and he just like somebody asked me once what the ethos of the hangar was, and I still don't know if this is the best way to describe it, but I just always said it was build the ramp. Like, John's a skater who would build ramps, and then we build ramps and make studios, and that's like, you know, he just had that thing. It was like, if you want to skate, build a fucking ramp. You want to record with whatever's in front of you, and if you can, get better and better gear. And he made this weird space. Just liked having people around. It was awesome.
Why did it end up getting shut down?
Well, you know, I mean, it's just like anything that, you know, the city gentrified sort of up to the doorsteps of the hangar, and then it kind of died down. But during that time, you know, people were thinking of, whoa, how can I use this space, and what can I do with it? And, you know, the developers got involved, and they're I don't know what they're going to make there, like, you know, a boutique muffin factory. I don't know what the hell's going to go on with condos and a, you know, screen printing place or something. I mean, it's going to be whatever it's going to be.
And have you been up there to record anything since then?
No, I mean, I don't know where I haven't been to the new place.
Right.
You know, John, I know that Chris works there all the time. He's an awesome dude. And the place was kind of built around the fact that, you know, Chris is just working all the time. So,
sure.
Yeah. And John had enough gear to spread between two studios, so.
Are you recording anywhere these days besides at your house, or? Yeah.
I mean, I go to different places here in town, and then I've been in and out of L.A. You know, I spent January, and I kind of got into this weird thing where I was bouncing back and forth from here and Stockholm, because I've been friends with the Peter, Bjorn, and John guys.
Uh-huh.
And I was working. I got asked to do a record in Belgium, like it was in like 2013, and I spent the whole summer in this weird hat factory in the middle of fucking nowhere, Belgium, and it was an amazing studio, really cool band, really nice people and everything. But at the end of it, they just asked me, "Oh, do you want to come? We're making a record that." You know, do you want to come and hang out? And like, we're trying to figure things out. So I went to Stockholm and worked a few days with them, and that was fun. And then I did a few more sessions there, and then I went there in January with Wild Nothing, and started the Wild Nothing record in Stockholm. So I've been kind of bouncing around, and then Bjorn, who's a producer, you know, he came to LA, and then I was working with him on a bunch of stuff, and so. There aren't any plans to go back right at the moment, but it's like, but I kind of, you know, it's wherever. Go to Portland, up to Larry's place, like Larry Crane's place, Jackpot. You know, that is a really nice place. It's kind of wherever anybody wants me to go.
Sure, and I wonder, you know, for people that are trying to get into being an engineer or a record producer or whatever, you know, because kind of this show has turned into like this like guide for teenagers.
Yeah,
want to break into the music business. That's as it's dying, as the rest of the world crumbles around you, and the everything falls into the ocean, which as the ocean retreats and draws back.
Siphon gas out of a tank.
Exactly. I think I feel like I should be teaching more of like a gun safety course at this point for the inevitable zombie attacks, as opposed to how to get into the music business. But did you teach yourself how to use all this fucking gear? Or did you ever go to school for recording or anything like that?
I went for 1 year to this community college in New Jersey called Brookdale, and they had I did take some recording classes, but we didn't spend any time in the studio. It was all basically just like theory and a lot of cutting tape. You know, like cutting. Quarter-inch 2-track interviews and stuff like that. But the guys, they were really cool, and they had this. There was a lot of like very interesting forensic listening theory that went on, where in the class we had to show up every class with a song that we had listened to that we broke down by form, and then we had to write down what the instruments were
What's form though, real quick?
Like just like intro, verse 1, verse,
okay.
you
Gotcha.
know, pre-chorus, chorus, you know, little solo, like however you wanted to write it down. It wasn't music theory.
Gotcha.
It wasn't like you have to write it out in terms of the chords. It's just like beginning, verse 1, and we, you know, in its simplest form, and we had to kind of write down what the instruments were, and then when they came in, and like where they were. We had to write a you know, thing from left to right where everything was panned, and like what effects we thought they were using, and was it distorted, was it clean, like just, you know, you had to describe what you were listening to. It was really amazing because, like, you know, it was really fun. You just pick whatever you want, but you had to bring the song to class in case you were called on, and then the instructor would basically play the song, and then kind of critique your analysis of the song. And it got into some really interesting conversations about, like, you know, people would say, oh, well, they're using some digital delay and a harmonizer on this part. And he's like, the song was recorded in 1959.
Right.
They didn't have any of it. How do you think?
How did they
do they
sound?
do it?
Yeah.
And then he would go into the tape techniques and everything. So
Sure.
it was really interesting because, you know, you just kind of learned. That is usually a conversation that happens when people are, you know, figuring out what they want to do when they're recording it. So here's this song, and sometimes it's like, oh, I like this sound of it, but not so much the song, or I like this energy of it, and that was really it.
Yeah,
the rest
and
of it was just you know, Mike Deming at Studio 45 I went to that university pretty much, and Mark Miller at Slaughterhouse.
Because I think about those kinds of things a lot, like as far as people that are getting into home recording now, or just
there's so much,
you know, computers and things like that, and recording directly to your iPad or whatever the fuck it is, or your phone, or you know, and you know how the art, or it's almost more like science as far as recording studio, and like what you're talking about, people that are recording music in the 30s and 40s, and they're getting these weird sounds. It's based on like sound projection and placement of mics, and you know what the dimensions of the room, and things like that, and things that are happening in between the sound waves and the microphones, et cetera, et cetera.
It's all very mystical.
It's all very mystical, but you know, when it gets down to like someone just turning their iPhone on in the practice space and recording a song, and then emailing that to the record label or whoever, or just putting it straight up on the internet, and then that's
what's exciting about things, though. In a way, it's just like, it's more than ever, it's about having an idea and something to say, and having some kind of energy that you're transmitting on a human level. You know, you can do everything. You can make all sorts of stuff. You know, there's so much technology that allows you to express yourself in terms of sound making, and you know, you can just get a bunch of old cell phones and go do some rad stuff. But it really does help ultimately if you have, you know, it's like if you're feeling something and you're trying to find a way to communicate that, you know. But that's what is so amazing about it, is that, like, you know, you hear something that somebody recorded on an iPhone, and you're like, okay, yeah, this is really scrappy or whatever, and then you hear something, you're like, what the fuck, that's fucking perfect, it sounds amazing. And no one with no amount of gear in the greatest studio in the world, they're never gonna get the feeling of that moment captured. Like,
right.
And iPhones sound kind of amazing.
Sure.
You know, that's the whole thing about it that's crazy. I mean, like,
I was talking about the other night with my buddy. I was saying how recording in your practice space to the iPhone, if you place it in the right spot or whatever, you have to move it around.
It sounds great.
It sounds like what we were trying to do with like a 4-track like 15 years ago, and trying to get this like really dirty.
Don't do it with one. Fucking put 5 of them in the room and just have the drummer click the fucking song off and line them up on your computer. You know what I mean? Like, just put it, everyone has an iPhone, just turn them all on and email it to one guy, line them all up, and then you have your multi-track. I mean, it was like, there's like I was like, I think it was like Deerhoof did a record like that where they had Pro Tools free. It was only 8 tracks, and they had all these laptops, and they wound up, it's just, there's so much you can do. They're just, why do it on one iPhone? Do it on like 7.
I know, but Tom, you're trying to put yourself out of a job here or unless you show up with a briefcase full of iPhones.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing, though. Is that's like if you get hung up on that kind of stuff, it's not that. It's that it's more like, because the job ultimately at some point is helping people organize all of that stuff into making some kind of not statement, but you don't have much time. There's such little space to communicate to people in the world because things move really quickly, and your window of opportunity is very short. So you have to make sure that what you have to say will come at them, that will grab them and draw them in. It's like people don't take the time to engage in things, and so that's just organizing that into some sort of coherent or non-coherent statement. If they don't want to do that, that can be just as valid too. But like at least, kind of people need help, looking at what they're doing and figuring out what it is sometimes that they're trying to do. And so yeah, somebody's got to mix all those iPhone recordings and edit them because fucking people in bands they're crazy and lazy and unorganized and like. Yeah, I'm just a janitor, man.
I like it. What's next? Yeah. What are you working on now?
I'm finishing this record with these guys called Horse Thief. They're from Oklahoma City, I love Oklahoma City. What a freak show!
Never been there. Driven through Oklahoma a few times, but
it's I like Oklahoma City. It's an interesting place, and so I've been doing that with them, and they were out here, and now I have to finish that, and then I've it's a bunch of stuff. I have a friend of mine's coming, this woman, Mary Epworth, who lives outside of London. We've been friends for a long time, and she's coming over, and we're doing like her record and her dude's record back to back. And then I don't know.
So it's nice. I mean, you get to like people that you enjoy their company, you get to do these projects with them or go to them or they come to you and it's like having these extended house guests that you at the end of
that is the way
there's something you've created together.
Yeah, it's like that is the way it's been for so long. Our house is maybe a little less of Grand Central Station than it used to be, but it's still that way. And I think the thing that's been the craziest thing about having done this for a while and having it go from being, this youthful inertia towards wanting to do something into seeing things that you do go out into the world and suffer various fates, and into people asking you to do that with them, and then it becomes then there's this job aspect to it sometimes too. It's just is that at the end of the day I just love this stuff. I can't help it. It's like I don't know what else I would do. I don't know what else I'm built for.
Well, I think we spent a day recording with you one time, and you pulled out all the stops, and then we bought you dinner afterwards, and that was
pretty much that was yeah. Well, that was it's very true. There was a tape op. An early tape op when it was still a fanzine, and was some guy, I wish I could remember his name. He was an engineer / producer / recording enthusiast from Philadelphia, and he was just wearing a sign that said "We'll record for food."
Yeah,
that happened for a long time.
I think that job, or like music video director or anything like is like get the money up front or.
I don't know. I mean, it is interesting. It's funny when
this burrito's cool, right? I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah,
we're good, right? We're good with this burrito.
I gotta just keep me fed.
$500 worth of recording. This burrito's good though. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah.
Excellent.
All right. Well, thank you, Tom. I
Cool.
think on that note,
right.
Again, you're here for free again. So, and helping us record today and letting us know how our gear works and how to soundproof the room earlier. Although we didn't get that recorded on the show, but next time it's going to sound even better.
Okay.
Because we're going to take your advice.
Cool. All right. Thanks for It was fun. It's actually hilarious to be sitting here attempting to do something semi-serious with you.
I know, that's the weirdest thing
That's
about
the best
this.
part. I had to come down just for that.
Yeah. You know, I could have came up with a game for you, and I ran out of time. I owe you a game, some sort of something silly, but we'll figure it out. Are you still in the Valley though, or do you?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you. And that was. I love it when we end the show and then we just keep talking about where you live at now, and because you were gonna move at one point though.
We were thinking about it, but I just I don't know. We have like a good spot. We're sort of tucked away. It's very quiet, and yet I don't really have. It's an interesting spot because you've seen the place. We don't really have neighbors behind us. It's good. It's really good.
Well, I'll come over and we'll grill something here soon.
That sounds excellent.
All right. Thanks a lot, Tom.
Cool.
All right, that was Thom Monahan. I hope you learned something about record producing, how it gets made, difference between a producer and an engineer, which I always wondered. I just want to say thanks to Tom. I want to say thanks to Green Street. And this is not a pipe for sponsoring the show. As always, we're recorded here in beautiful Los Angeles, California. Before we go, we just want to say that our thoughts are out there to the friends of Sammy Winston, BG Rex. Thanks to Liz Cooley and Permanent Records, who we had on episode 1, for setting up a fund for those guys. I'm sure you can find it. We'll post a link on Facebook when we post the show up here too, but if you can donate some money, that'd be great. Any little bit helps. Everyone, be safe out there. Tell your friends you love them. Give them a hug. This is Jedbanger's Ball. Thanks for listening.